Alright guys, I wanted to talk about what's listed in the wireframes as the list page, post page. I think this is, once I started developing it, this was one of the most that I did not know really how to proceed. There was a lot of inconsistencies, not just in here that I didn't understand how to implement. But also you can see, like, from the About Us page that had the text and title stuff up here, there's nothing here. So it made me and the design team wonder, um, is this just supposed to be a beautiful large image with no text or anything there? I've seen that happen, and of course that is a design direction, and if that's something you want to do, sure, we can do that. Really makes it so important that if we adopt that for this page and the other pages, by removing that title, then we just have these jaw-dropping images, because that's really how that works, all that quality being in there. I wanted to talk. I'm really not sure what this page is supposed to be, and even though I looked at the list of pages for dynamic and whatnot, I can't tell if this is supposed to be a dynamic listing. And for example, this is the accommodations category. I see here that we have an image. I see here that we have the name. That I also see here that we have contact details. Now, from a development perspective, from a WordPress perspective, this is really confusing for me. Because in order to pull this off, this means that when you collect information, if this were a dynamic page, in order to pull this off, that means that you would have to collect, the location, the address, the phone number, and then we would have to add these custom fields to the post. There'd be a field for phone number, be a field for address, there'd be a field for for things like that, and then dynamically the programming would pull that out. Now, we never discussed that that level of coding, and in order to be able to do that, that would be a very custom direction, and that's something that we currently don't support. In my opinion, if we do want those details, they really need to be part of the body text, and that way it can just fall nicely into place in the summary if we want, or at the bottom of the actual page. Like when you click on this to the page that you go to, these could be at the bottom there. But pulling these out separately and having the same fields repeated, spoke to me pretty specifically as a developer, and it threw up a really big red flag that of how much work it would be to have to implement that, and it's not something that we can do. So in that respect, I did not know if this was a dynamic page. I know there's been a lot of talk about dynamic versus manually putting these in, because there's not going to be that many. So I mean, if this is going to be manual, then that's fine, because I've made the page so that you could easily put these rows in there and edit them as needed. This here, there is filter technology for the dynamic pages, but they're not going to work for manual pages, and also they're not going to work at such a deep level. And these will be categories, I'm assuming, first, second, like food, ramen, I don't know, shio ramen, and whatever else. I mean, so that's a pretty super detailed organization of content. And from a development perspective, again, one of the reasons it's so confusing, if we're only starting with 20 or so pages, I just cannot see how in the world this level of functionality, I mean, this is the type of functionality that we have put on pages for thousands of listings, so that they could be easily sorted through. But if we're just going to have one page, I don't understand how we're going to incorporate that. Also, again, great for a wireframe. Did not understand what type of heading this is or how it was going to work. So let's take a look at the other page now. Alright, so this is the page as it's rendered, and again, did not have in the wireframe anything to go by. So are we putting, like, if this is a dynamic page, are we putting a category name here? Also, you can see that if we put the A1, I'm sorry, the H1 tag, you know, that looked okay for the About Us, but when we have these huge titles like this, given the sizes that we've specified so far, this looks really out of place, and it just doesn't look like it's a, it just looked out of place, in my opinion. Alright, so we go down and look at a little bit of how this would look if it were manually built out. And again, image, name of place, of course that being an H3 and a link to the actual page, and then the details here. I noticed that the other one said that you wanted a Google map. You know, here, a Google map showing location. Do we really want a Google map here? You know, the designers played with that a little bit. You really could not get that to work. Looked really awkward. This whole page just looked. It just looked like I had no direction to kind of fill in the blanks. There were too many blanks to fill in, is what I'm saying. All right, so if we take the page at face value for manually input content, I mean, sure, it works fine. I think we could address the styling there again, and maybe clean up how that's supposed to look. I just don't know. It was just such a confusing page with not really knowing exactly what direction to go, whether I was trying to build something for dynamic or build something for manual. This image, of course, is going to go over that. Contact details, actually that flows very nicely once we get into the mobile. So except, you know, again, there's that big H1. But then, yeah, so we've got the image there, the name, the text, the summary, and of course, you know, those items, they fall seamlessly in place at that point. So again, looks like it should. One of the things I have not mentioned from the other videos that I've been meaning to, and this isn't just about this page, but all pages, and we'll especially see it on the next page, the contact page, that we look at in the final video. But there's, like, for example, are these the actual pages? And if they are, you know, if we can get content, I can try to get that in there this weekend. There were some things, you know, about like the Facebook, the Twitter. In order to really clean the site up, get it ready for production, of course, we need to start getting the links to the official locations to where these are directed. Frequently visited pages. This was another thing that stood out to me as a developer. There's no way to do this on the site at all. That's just not a functionality that is supported. So there's no way that the most popular pages could show up here with the way it's designed now. So I know that. So man, we just have to do something manually for now. I mean, whatever the 5 pages, I guess, if you're wanting to push for conversions or to really get people to visit, you know, we can put those there. But I just wanted to make everyone aware. Again, there's no way to do the most popular pages and have those show up dynamically. Other than that, the styling falls into place. So however we end up using this page, you know, it should work for what we need it for. If it's going to be manual, especially now. Again, one of the things I did not know, if we were trying to design what the category and archive pages were going to look like, this theme does have its own archive pages built in, and I will demonstrate those to you later, probably in person rather than a video. The only reason I don't show it now is that I need the content. We need all of the articles to be able to put into the posts area so that I can start developing it and tweaking that across the devices. So there's a lot of the stuff that from a post and category related perspective that I can't do until we get the article content, article images. Once those are in place, then all of the rest of the functionality and those blog pages will fall into place, and we can see what that looks like. What it won't look like this though. Could it look like this? You bet. But I know this looks simple, but in order to get all of this in place like that, if I'm understanding the from a dynamic perspective, that would take a pretty large investment of development time, of custom development time, and we just don't have that for this project. We definitely don't have it, to be able to do it before the 15th. Even if the budget was there, but that level of customization, making the dynamic pages look exactly customized, I mean that would take so much more work than what we can do in this version of this launch. So again, you can see the some of the concerns about what to do or how to do there, how to clean that up. So I'm looking for some suggestions really about what the direction of this page is, and and how do we meet its goals once I know more about it. Alright guys, see you in the next one. Sorry, in that last video I told you that I was going to talk about the general page as well. I forgot to do that, but it's real quick, so I've edited this to add to that. Alright, so we're on the list page now that we just looked at, and here is the general page. Even though they look a little bit different in design, once I got really deep into it, I felt like this was the same thing as the list page. I really don't understand from a technical standpoint what the difference between this page is and the list page, because again this says post page or post, and of course we've got articles listed here, where the only difference being is that are these categories? Are we going to be clicking to categories, cultures, the things to do, the visit Kakigawa? I mean, and even in this mock-up here, I didn't understand semantically, what's it? Aren't these things to do? I mean, or at least the package stores, places to eat. I can understand, maybe places to stay. I just don't understand how this page works. Again, we've got that header that's a bit different from the other. So just briefly, let's look at the rendition of that. So again, made an executive decision just to throw that in there for us to review. But again, here you have the H1 in black. The question that keeps popping up, do we want this to look like the home page, so that this is the multicolored section? And if that's the case, what do we put here, if anything? So a lot of ambiguity, a lot of misunderstanding for me about what happens in this area. And then these are just, again, I didn't know if they were articles going to, specific things to do. Nature and culture sounded like categories. I didn't know if we were listing, we're going to a category listing page of, of those things like nature, things that are categorized with nature, things that are categorized with places to eat. The visit Shizuoka again. So just wanted to, try to clarify and I didn't know if it was dynamic or not. So just wanted to clarify, what is this page doing? Is it not the exact same page as the other one, just a different design type? Alright, talk to you guys soon.